Hello, everyone. This is Chala Dinkoy, CEO and founder of The Repositioning Expert, welcoming you to another Tuesday Tea Time with Chala. And this time it is tea, believe it or not. Usually it's protein or some wonderful thing like that. So I wanted to read to you a LinkedIn comment that I got on a post, which inspired the topic for today, which is how not to lose trust and sound like AI. Because, well, you be the judge. Do you think a human wrote this comment to my LinkedIn post or AI? It said, and this was in response to last week's Tuesday Tea Time, where I had a guest who was Brooke Foley, and she's the one. Oh, I'm hearing that we're having trouble streaming to LinkedIn. This may be an issue on LinkedIn's end. Well, hopefully that's not going to be an issue, or I'm going to have to repost it. But so last week I had Brooke Foley on. She was another marketer who got in touch with me because we had been doing the same jobs, pitch training for Women's Business Network Enterprises. And I posted our video and she reposted it, and somebody commented on it. And so this was the comment on our conversation last week. It said, on Tuesday, September 2nd, Jane Agency and the Repositioner dug deep into key brand strategy topics like audience targeting, promise, and support, using insights that even big players like PepsiCo have valued. Their collab showed it's all about balancing the fine details of positioning, much like how they work with the American Red Cross. I totally get your point, Brooke. Aligning with quality peers makes the hard to sell parts of branding strategy a lot more doable. At xyz.com, and I'm not going to name them, we're using similar tactics to sharpen our own approach. So excited to see where these partnerships go next. So it was very interesting because it was really the only comment there, and it was quite long. And then, of course, when I read it, I had a niggling suspicion. I said, is this AI generated? Because I've been approached to do AI generated content, automated content, to engage prospects who are posting on social media. And so sure enough, the XYZ company that I looked up was doing this for a living. And I am sure that it works. They wouldn't exist if it didn't. I'm sure for some it works. But here's where it's going, and this is what inspired this conversation today, is that 73% is the number of small businesses and marketers that are using AI for content creation right now. Now, however, what's the downside of this? And this is going to be increasing, and it's just early years. 46%, almost half of US adults distrust brands that they know or find out or suspect to use AI to generate their content. So authenticity is becoming the number one trust tool. And it got me to thinking, how do you prove, or how do you show that you're a human instead of AI in your content? Because if what stands out is what's uncommon, and 73% are even admitting to using AI in producing their content, then how can you produce content and actually sound like you? So here are some of the key points that I found that I've done, and I'm going to give you some examples. So believe it or not, one is swearing. So you don't have to swear, like actually swear, but you could use effing, freaking, oh my God, OMG, human ways of saying whatever you would be saying. And I actually talk about this later on, but acting like you're talking to actual humans. So believe it or not, that's one way of showing people in your content that you are you. It's a human. Number two is telling your own emotional story. So when I see either my clients or competitors or any in the market content that is based on personal own life, I see and feel as if that is more possibly human. So tell your own actual stories. And in fact, when we're pitching to corporations, we only tell stories of things that we have gone through and how we've helped our clients and what challenges that they went through, because it makes it so much more engaging. One, because it's story-based. Two, because it's emotional. And three, because it's not canned. It is actually human generated. Number three, believe it or not, again, this is a weird one. It's spelling or grammatical mistakes. And I made this week in my newsletter. And I thought, this sounds so unprofessional, but I got a lot of feedback on it. I got a lot of people saying, hey, this was such a good story. But and I just wrote the quote of where I made that. We are all unique. I said, we are all unique. We have niches that set, instead of saying us apart, I wrote set up apart. So it's clear what I was trying to say, hopefully, but just that one small glitch makes it seem like I truly am writing it. Now, am I going to tell you to make mistakes on purpose? I don't know. You may want to think about it, but you don't want it to be all the time, but it certainly makes it definitely not AI and definitely human driven. Okay, so another one is detailed memory. So this goes similar to telling your own emotional story, but so when I tell the story of how I met Richard Baker, I met Richard at my client's event 10 years ago. I thought was there to poach on my clients, and then he ended up hiring me. So again, detailed when, where, how, all of these details and memories actually make it more human. Number 5, talk like you're texting your friend. When my competitor called me was the title of my newsletter from last week, because I'm actually talking on my newsletter and subject titles exactly like I would talk to a friend. And that's not the way that AI does it. So here's how AI does it. Number 6 is don't overuse transitions. So I've noticed, and I've been using AI since, I guess, a year and a half now, words like furthermore, moreover, additionally, these are not naturally occurring, at least in my vocabulary words, but they pepper them in. And even in the cases where you train AI to sound like you by uploading your content and your voice and your scripts, which is what I also have, but I don't use it that way. And I'll tell you how I do use it. These overly used transition words and words you wouldn't use are still there. So when AI is present, you can pick them out. And number 7 of how to sound less like AI and more human-like is refer to pop culture. So for example, when I tell a story like when in the 80s, I used to eat dinner every night with my family, watching Happy Days. And I thought the Fonz was the coolest person in the world. So if you weren't raised in the 80s, if you never watched Happy Days, if you didn't know who the Fonz was, you have no reference to this pop culture reference. And one of the things that AI doesn't do very well is the pop culture reference. So use your memories, use your humanity, and use these tactics to, 1, make your content more memorable, 2, make it more human, and 3, make it more breakthrough. In the world where 73% today are using AI, and they're not using these things. Okay, number 8 is joke. Be sarcastic or say something that made you laugh, or retell something that made you laugh. So an example is my podcast was called, I have 3, but one of them was called Naked Marketing. And it was about your marketing mistakes, because you were getting naked with the truth of how you screwed up your marketing. And I did over 100 episodes of that during COVID. And of course, I ripped it off from Jamie Oliver, who had the Naked Chef, for BBC 30 years ago. That's how I borrowed it from him, but it worked. From last week's article, I have a few other quotes. Being old is not a differentiator is something that I said in the article, because I hate it when people say, I ask them, what is your differentiator? And business owners are like, I've been in the industry for 40 years. Well, and that's what I would think. But in my article, I was saying, well, being old is not a differentiator. Another one that I, in the same article that I was talking about, these are not good differentiators. I said, This one kills me. If everyone is claiming good service as a differentiator, it is not a differentiator. And I actually, used all caps on the everyone. So things like this, I mean, yes, they're, contentious. Yes, they're lippy. Yes, they can get pushback, but they are definitely not AI produced. They are fully human. You have your own brand voice and you're able to use it. Now, here's the trick around how I use AI and my content to make sure that it sounds like me. Well, first, I research the topic. I find the information from AI. I find the stats. I make sure that they're real because certain certain versions of certain AI apps are not giving the right sources. So make sure to look at the sources and make sure that those stats are real, because I've been burned with that one early when I first started using it. So I do my Tuesday Tea Time live, and then I take the transcription and I then input it into my project in Claude.ai, which has all of my past video scripts and book scripts and all of my speech scripts and all of my website copy, as well as all my blog scripts. Everything is in there, and I say make it sound like me, and then produce and summarize everything that I've said on this Tuesday Tea Time live. And then that's the one that I edit off of, and that absolutely takes the best out of everything that I say here. It synthesizes it together. It summarizes it better than I ever could. And it does, I do the heavy lifting by actually doing this live, because obviously this is live. This is not an AI generated bot, because I'm here, I'm doing it live. So there is then taking that, the value is taking that real person and everything that I'm saying, and then having AI remash it and then looking at it to fix it if it looks wonky, if there's anything that I need to fix, and then putting it out as my newsletter of the week, and then putting it as a LinkedIn newsletter, because I also have the Marketing Minute newsletter through LinkedIn, which is really important that you do. So these are some of the ways that I'm using AI, but increasingly, I don't doubt that AI use is going to increase. AI use in copywriting is going to increase, and the value of human connection, the value of human sounds, and the value of human presentation and representation and originality and humor and emotion is going to be more cherished, coveted, valued. And I hope this was helpful to you, and I will speak to you next week.